for the Fayette County Public Library, and this is Science Isn't Scary, out and about. Today, I am at the Wastewater Treatment Center with our superintendent, Aaron Johnson. Now, Aaron, wastewater is something we don't want very much of, do we?
Correct.
And you are in a lab here that just has lots of things in it. Can you tell us what you do here?
Sure. So we take all the water that comes into from people's drains, their showers, the toilets, anything that you guys flush down into the sewer system, and it comes into our wastewater treatment plant, and then we treat it. So it goes through a bunch of processes outside, and once it goes outside, then eventually we return it back to the river. So in here, we do all our testing to make sure that the water is clean enough so that we can pass and go back to the river. So we do some simple tests like pH. We test how much solids is in the water. Then on top of it, we do ammonias and phosphorus, and these are all things that we have to pass to make sure that it is treatable and it is clean for the river.
So Aaron, can you tell us about some of the tests that you run to make sure that the water is good for return to the river?
Yeah, so we do pH, we do solids, we do ammonia, we do phosphorus every day, and then right now he is running a chlorine sample. So we use chlorine to help make sure that our water is clean and that there isn't any bad bacteria, so small little bugs in the water that could hurt the river or hurt people that are in the river. And so he is testing to make sure that we use a chemical that takes the chlorine back out. So we don't want to return the chlorine to the river and cause a problem in the river. So we don't want to kill any fish or anything with what we're treating here. So we're testing right now to make sure that the chlorine has come back out. If those samples stay clear, that means there isn't chlorine. If they were to turn pink, that would mean that we did have chlorine present. So we put a little packet in, it reacts or mixes with the chlorine, and then we look for a color. As you can see, they're staying pretty clear. So that's a good sign that we have taken the chlorine back out. So those will sit, and then he'll run them in our meter over here, and that'll tell us how much chlorine is left in the water. And we have certain limits that we have to be under, so we can't return certain things or else the state can come in and get us in trouble.
So what happens if one of those turn pink? What are you going to have to do then?
We would just go and adjust the chemical.
Add more chemical to your treatment area? Okay, cool.
So now he is going to test if there's any E. coli present in the water. So we have to make sure that there isn't anything harmful that we're returning. That's why we use the chlorine. So we put chlorine outside, and it goes into 3 different tanks, and that mixes with the water, and that's supposed to kill anything harmful that could come in. So E. coli is present in just nature. It's present in our bodies. It's present everywhere. So this test, you have to be very careful. We don't touch the inside of the rim because you have E. coli even potentially on countertops anywhere. So that's a bottle that's been sterilized. We mix a reagent that will show up the next day. This sits for 24 hours. And then he'll pour it into that pack, and then it'll get sealed in that machine there. You can see that we have 2 trays here. This one is a clean water tray that we ran yesterday. So if it has E. coli, they would be yellow, and then when we put them under UV light, they'll glow like a bright blue. So you can see that this one has some yellow, and then what we do is we mark them if they're yellow, so that when we put them under the UV light, we can see they have to be yellow and light up. Then we put them under here, and then we count them. So the count, then we take a table and we can determine how many E. coli. So you can see some are lit up.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's some that are blue. That's fascinating.
Yep. And that means that that's E. coli, but it's not a number. We have a certain limit we have to stay under, and as long as we're under that, there is always going to be some present, but as long as we're under the limit, then we're okay.
Very good. So E. coli, Aaron, that's in poop, right?
Yes, that's present in our the raw wastewater, so everything that comes in, along with we get toilet paper, we get paper towels, I've seen toys come in, so anything that you flush down the drain is going to come here, including things that shouldn't be flushed down the drain. So for example, we often see in our lift stations flushable wipes. So the the label says that it's flushable. However, in our pumping stations, these wipes will actually bind up and then we can't process them. So the only things that really should go down the toilet are toilet paper. That is the only thing that is made to break up and so that it doesn't cause the system to have a clog. And then if we get clogs, that potentially can lead to problems. So, and then it goes through many different steps outside. There is where it comes in, it's broken up into small little pieces, and then from there it goes into some other tanks where it'll settle. So wastewater mimics a river. Rivers go through slow and fast parts, and when each stage is doing something different. And when it's going through a fast part, it's adding oxygen to the water, and that actually helps the treatment plant or treatment process by having the bugs. They kind of freshens it up and then they can do their job. So in the background here outside, you can see that we're adding oxygen. That's what all the little bubbles are. So we're adding oxygen in these tanks, and there are little tiny bugs that you can see only under a microscope. And they are eating all the little organics. So they're eating all the food and using the wastewater as food to get bigger, and then they will just continue the process. So.
Wow, that's really fascinating. So you need to know a lot of science to be able to do this job, don't you?
Yes. Okay. Each day you're using science in many different ways. If there's a problem, you have to try to use the different lab tests to figure out what could be the problem and try to figure out the solution.
Cool. All right, this has been a very fascinating day. I'm Miss Lisa for the Fayette County Public Library. This has been Science Out and About at the Wastewater Treatment Plant. Come see me again in 2 weeks for another fascinating adventure out and about with science.